Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone to this weekly Bhagavad Gita reading session. I really enjoy, being with all of you, and we discuss Bhagavad Gita shloka by shloka. So in this session, we are going to continue from where we had left off last week. And as you all can recall, we were reading third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We covered till shloka number 13 in the last session. Today, we will discuss shloka number 14. Now, the reason why we are, we have actually, the reason why we will discuss only one shloka this particular week is because this particular shloka, 14th shloka of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, okay, uh, it's a very deep shloka, right? I mean, it kind of needs some deep understanding. It deals with what is known as a subtle science. Okay, material science we all are aware of. We studied all the science subjects right from our school days. Okay, but subtle aspect of the science or the subtle science is something which generally is not discussed in any school, colleges, or universities. Okay, but Bhagavad Gita talks about it. Okay, and we will see how it is applicable in our day-to-day life. Okay, another very important shloka. Okay, with a very practical tip which we can implement in our day-to-day life. Okay, and there are certain things like which we had discussed in the previous session that also we will try to discuss in little more detail. Okay, so without wasting any further time, I would like to perform some pranam mantras, the Mangalacharan. Please try to repeat after me if you already know them. In case you don't know them, then try to listen very intently because listening is also very, very purifying. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gururo Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenbandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prem Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurat Vishe Namah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langate giri Yat kripa tamham vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Mishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Okay. All right. So before we start, a quick summarization of what we had discussed last week in the last session. Okay, so we were discussing about the Karma Kanda section of the Karma Yoga. Okay, the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which deals with Karma Yoga, and there is a section about Karma Kanda. Okay, like people who are not intelligent enough, to perform Karma Yoga in the right consciousness, and they are very much attached to the fruits of their actions. Such people can perform some activities to gain some material benefits, and these activities are as per the shastric injunctions, okay, as per what has been mentioned in the shastras. So such activities are known as karma kanda. And what happens that when a person continuously performs karma kanda, then slowly, that person is elevated up the yoga ladder up to the level of karma yoga. Okay, so karma kanda can be considered as the topmost rung of the yoga ladder. Sorry, lowermost rung of the yoga ladder. Okay, and slowly, as one progresses from karma kanda to karma yoga, then dhyana yoga, and then finally bhakti yoga. Okay, so this is the whole process. And in this particular section, in the last session, we also spoke about the sacrifices which Krishna recommends for the demigods. And why does he recommend the sacrifices for the demigods? So that all the necessities can be provided to people in general. Once the demigods are satisfied with the performance of the yagyas or the sacrifices, they will bestow upon us all the prosperity and the basic necessities which we require for our survival. Okay, so that was the reason why Krishna had recommended the sacrifices unto the demigods. And we also saw that what are the benefits of prasadam, right? What happens if we do not offer prasadam? Okay, and we will see these two aspects in a little more detail in this session today. But we will also see, some other aspects also. Okay, so now talking about all these things, like coming back to the Kurukshetra war or the Kurukshetra battlefield where Arjun and Krishna were discussing all these things. Okay, Arjun was adamant actually. Okay, his thought process was like, I don't need the demigods. Okay, I don't have any opulent desires either. So what do I do? I'll just go to the forest and I can stay there, live a life of an ascetic, and survive by begging and whatever I get from the different households in and around that forest. I will just eat that and I will survive there. Okay, and by doing that, I will also be able to avoid this ghastly warfare. Okay, because that was one thing which Arjun wanted to avoid under all circumstances, right? He was adamant that, oh Krishna, I'm not going to fight. I cannot use my weapons on my own kinsmen, on my own family members. Correct. So in this way, like we saw that in the last session, Krishna was saying that those who do not offer, what do they get from the demigods? Back to the demigods in return. So such people are certainly thieves. Okay, so Arjun was of the thought process that okay, by living a life of an ascetic, I will not be offending the demigods, so I won't be a thief, and at the same time, I will be avoiding the ghastly warfare, so I won't be sinful either. Okay, so in that way, he just wanted to strike the balance between the two. Okay, but Krishna actually clears all the doubts. Okay, and he says that even if you go to the forest, okay, the eatables that you are going to beg from the different households or whatever grows in the forest, the fruits, vegetables, berries, whatever, okay, roots, those things you are going to consume, but they also grow because of the rains. Okay, and how do the rains come? That we will see in this particular verse number 14. And as I had mentioned earlier, it is a subtle science which very few people can understand. Initially, it's a little difficult to comprehend, okay, what is given. Okay, so we'll read the shloka and the translation, and we'll discuss about that. Okay, let me share my screen. So the shloka goes like this. अन्नाद् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्याद् अन्न संभवः यज्ञाद् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञः कर्म समुद्भवः. In the translation, all living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna or sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Okay, so very nice verse, very important verse, and very practical verse also to implement in our day-to-day lives. Okay, so let's see in a little bit of more detail what Srila Prabhupada wants to tell here. So in this verse, Sri Krishna actually speaks about a cycle. Okay, So in our school days, we had learnt about different cycles, right? Water cycle, oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, etc. But here in this particular verse, a different water cycle is given. Okay, a cycle which is very very subtle, as I had stated earlier, during the start of this session. Okay, and it is understandable only by the intelligent folks. It is not merely the dry scientific speculation. See, with scientific speculations, one may come to understand how the things work in the material world. Okay, from the material aspect. Okay, we all know that this entire material world is made up of five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Right. So it's a combination of that and the exchange of energies and all those things. From that aspect, if we want to understand, okay, some understanding we can get, and that is what we are doing in our school, colleges, and universities. Okay, but we completely miss out the subtle aspect. Okay, no one talks about it, no one thinks about it, but Bhagavad Gita speaks about it. Okay, and we have to accept Bhagavad Gita as it is because it is the word of Krishna himself, the supreme personality of Godhead himself. Okay, so important verse, and it has this term bhutani. Okay, so what is this word bhutani? What does this word mean? It means all the living entities with a material body. Okay, and how are material body nourished? By anna, okay, or the food grains. Okay, so annad bhavati bhutani. And where do these food grains come from? Parjanyad anna sambhava. That means food grains come from the rains. Okay, and how the rains are coming? Yagyat bhavati parjanya. Now, this is the subtle aspect by various sacrifices that are done. We will discuss about this a little later towards the end of this session. Okay, that how is it possible that yagyas can bring rains? Okay, but just we will just hold on for a while and we'll discuss it later. Okay, and how do the sacrifices manifest? So rains are being brought by yagyas or the sacrifices. Now the question is how the sacrifices are coming. Okay, sacrifices are coming by karma, yagya karma samudbhava. That means it is coming out of karma or the prescribed duties. So in the earlier chapters, we had seen that there are certain prescribed duties for each individual. Okay, especially in the previous yugas, there were this system called as the varnashram system. Okay, the person had to perform their duties according to their varna and according to their ashram. Right, and we also saw that in this age of Kali Yuga, everything is a mix-up. Okay, everything is a what to say completely topsy-turvy. Right, so it's very very difficult to identify to which varna one belongs to, and it's also very difficult to identify to which ashrama one belongs to. Right, so in this particular age, the only yagya or only sacrifice which is recommended is the Sankirtan Yagya or the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so this is, as I said, a very important verse and can be implemented in our day-to-day life. Okay, and we discussed in the previous verse that there are different sacrifices which are prescribed for different demigods, right? Um, Lord Krishna had explained that there are different devis and devtas, and if one satisfies them by performing different sacrifices for each of them, then they will become happy and they will bestow upon us all the prosperity and give us all the necessities of our life. Okay, but then there's a catch here. There are 13 crore demigods or devis and devtas. Okay, so are we supposed to perform a sacrifice for all of them? 13 crore sacrifices in one single lifetime? Can you imagine that? That is not possible, for human beings like us. So what to do in that scenario? Okay, let's read from the purport what Srila Prabhupada has to say, and I guess that will give us all the explanation. Give me a second. We'll go to that chapter. So what Prabhupada is mentioning here is demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs. Okay, so Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and all the other demigods, these are some primary ones. Surya Dev is also one of the very primary demigod. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada is saying here that they are appointed officers. So in the previous session, we had seen that we spoke about this universal administration. Okay, that this entire creation is basically manifested by none other than Lord Sri Krishna himself. Okay, and he is the Sarvalok Maheshwaram. He is the Maheshwar or the controller of all the spiritual and material worlds, and he has appointed certain in charge. These demigods or devis and devatas, they are in charge of different departments basically, right? And to provide the necessities to all the living entities basically. Okay, and so these Prabhupada is saying that they are appointed officers. They are appointed by whom? None other than Lord Sri Krishna himself. Okay, and further Prabhupada writes, the Vedas direct sacrifice to satisfy the demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, water sufficiently to produce food grains. Okay, so these appointed officers are basically taking care of the various necessities of the living entities, and Krishna himself has given us the Vedas. Okay, and in the Vedic scriptures, he himself has given us how to satisfy the Devis and Devatas. Okay, so but the question still remains that is it possible for us to perform those many sacrifices? Okay, we'll come to that later. And when Devis and Devatas are satisfied, as it is written here, the light, heat, water, etc., are given to us in sufficient quantities so that we can grow food grains and other eatables. Okay, as devotees, okay, now we need to understand one very important thing: that are we supposed to go through this indirect method of satisfying the demigods? See, ultimately, what is happening, as I had mentioned in the previous session also, that when we perform some sacrifices for Devis and Devatas, now they are very, very loyal to Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, they are not like us. That okay, you give me a nice, luxurious place to live, and I'll offer you 2 coconuts in return. Right? They don't do that. Whatever we offer to the demigods, they first offer it to Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, Lord Sri Krishna accepts them, approves, that okay, you go ahead and give all the necessities to all the living entities. The reason for this uh, sacrifice has been carried out, so you just satisfy okay, that particular reason. So the demigods are very loyal. They offer it first to Krishna, and then they accept what all those offering as prasad. Okay, and then once they are satisfied, they provide us all the necessities on Krishna's approval. Okay, so this is the whole route basically. So now the question is that why to go through this indirect route of satisfying the demigods? They will offer it to Krishna, and then again Krishna will approve. And rather than going through this indirect route, we can directly go and satisfy Lord Krishna, right? And we'll get everything what we need. Correct. So devotees understand this. Okay, but since we are discussing this in the Karma Kanda section, so we are talking about people who are not at that platform as of now. Okay, their understanding in terms of spirituality is very, very limited, and that is the reason why they take this indirect route. Okay, and for such people, this kind of Karma Kanda is prescribed in the Vedic scriptures. Okay, but as devotees, we need to understand that we do not need to go through this indirect route. Okay, and what is the direct method? Let's understand. Okay, so what Prabhupada is saying here, that when Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods who are different limbs of the Lord are actually also worshipped. Okay, therefore there is no separate need to worship the demigods. Okay, this is very clear. Basically, even like Prabhupada is writing this in the purport, but even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very clearly mentioned that there is no separate need. Why? Because if we read about the creation of this material world in Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto, it has been discussed in very much detail. Okay, it's a little technical, little complex also, but what anyone can understand by reading that is all these Devis and Devatas are nothing but different limbs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Okay, some are his forehead, some are his shoulders, some are his arms, legs, belly, all that. So when we are directly worshipping Lord Sri Krishna, when we are, performing a yajna or a sacrifice for Sri Krishna, and Lord Sri Krishna is satisfied, then automatically all his body parts will be satisfied, right? So all the Devis and Devtas who are nothing but different limbs of Sri Krishna, they will also be satisfied. They will also be worshipped. If we are worshipping Lord Sri Krishna, we are also worshipping the demigods. Okay, so they will be satisfied. Okay, and by doing that, when Sri Krishna is satisfied, like uh, he will provide us all the necessities. Okay, and if you all can recall, in the last session, we had discussed about our beautiful analogy, okay, that if we water the root of a plant, okay, then the entire plant is nourished and it flourishes very nicely. Okay, you don't have to sprinkle water on each and every leaf, twig, branches of the tree, right? I mean, that's and it's not going to reap you any benefits in the long term until and unless you water the root of the plant. The tree won't flourish. Okay, and simply if you just water the root, there is no separate need to spray or sprinkle water on the different parts of the plant. The plant will be nourished automatically. So same is the case here. You just satisfy Lord Krishna, who is the root of all this creation, right? And all the Devis and Devtas, all the demigods will be automatically satisfied, and they will provide you all the necessities of the life, basically. So just by worshipping Sri Krishna, all the Devis and Devtas will be satisfied. Okay. So also we spoke in the last session about prasadam. Okay, if you remember that offering bhoga to Sri Krishna and then accepting that as prasadam. Okay, so this is what we devotees do. Okay, and the benefits of that is given in this verse as well. Okay, so what happens when someone has prasadam? Okay, when someone has only prasadam. Okay, so we'll just have a look into that as well. Okay, so just we'll see. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. Okay, so it's very, very important verse. Okay, what happens when we offer the food to Lord Sri Krishna and then accept it as a prasadam? Okay, now Prabhupada is saying that it nourishes the body spiritually. Okay, we'll see how this is so important. Okay, now the Lord Sri Krishna is the super soul of this entire creation. Okay, he is present in the heart of each and every living entity as a super soul, even in the hearts of the Devis and Devtas. Okay, so when food is offered to Sri Krishna, which is one type of sacrifice, what happens? To Sri Krishna, all the Devis and Devtas will also be satisfied. And the remnants of the prasadam that we are taking, basically, it, it does three things in our body. Okay, one, it nourishes the body spiritually. Okay, this is very important. What Prabhupada is saying here, nourishes the body spiritually. Okay, so in the previous verse, we saw that if we eat food without offering, then what happens? So Krishna said that we are invariably eating sin. Correct? That's what he said. And we also saw that there are 5 types of sins that we commit while cooking the food. Okay, whether it's a vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food. The non-vegetarian food has more, high. The sinful reactions are of much higher magnitude. Okay, but even for during vegetarian cooking, okay, sins are incurred. There are 5 types of sins. Those who want to recall, they can just go through my previous video and just get an idea about that. Okay, and what happens? Sorry, so we were discussing that the prasadam that we offer, it nourishes the body spiritually. Okay, so whatever nourishment any food provides, like the food which has not been offered to Krishna, will be only for physical body. Okay, one, that people who are not offering the food, they are invariably eating sin. Okay, and then second point is that in such a food will only provide nourishment to the physical body. Okay, it has nothing to do with spirituality. It will not nourish you spiritually. Okay, but when we take prasadam, the body is nourished spiritually. Okay, and that is what we need very much in our life. Okay, because until and unless the body is nourished spiritually, we will not be able to come to the platform, to understand the purpose of this human life. We will not be able to come to a platform to ask the right questions. Like, who am I? What is the purpose of my life? Who is God? What is my relationship with God? Okay, all these things. So this is the first advantage of eating only Krishna Prasad. Okay. Second, past sinful reactions of the body are vanquished. Yes. So we had also seen this in the previous session. Okay, that we have committed so many sinful reactions in our previous lives and in even committing in this lifetime unknowingly, right? All those are completely vanquished, completely eradicated. Okay, once we start consuming Krishna Prasadam. Okay, and third, which is a very beautiful point, that the body is immunized from all the material contamination. Okay, material contamination of this material nature, the body is completely immunized from that. Okay, and there's one very beautiful analogy that Prabhupada is giving. The purport, let's go through it. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects the person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to the material affliction, and one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Okay, isn't it beautiful? Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all the reactions of the past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self realization. Such a beautiful point Prabhupada is making here, right? Just as vaccination protects us from a specific disease, similarly, prasadam acts as a vaccine against the material contamination. Okay. And what is this material contamination, by the way? So primarily, although this material world itself, like, it's full of contamination, right? But primarily, it can be categorized into 5 types: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. Okay, Kam, that is lust; Krodh, anger; Lobh, greed; Moh, attachment; Mad, pride; and Matsarya is enviousness. Okay, so this is the material contamination. We all are contaminated. Okay, uh, irrespective of who we are, right? So prasadam actually cleanses this all from within, basically. So it's very, very beautiful point that Prabhupada is mentioning. Very nice analogy Prabhupada has given here. Okay, and this is something which is very important for all spiritual practitioners. Okay, who want to attain the ultimate goal of life of pure bliss and to serve Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. Okay, if we are really serious about it, then we have to take only Krishna Prasad. Okay, so what happens to a person who does not offer food to Sri Krishna? See that. Okay. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action, and this prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs, to suffer the resultant reactions of all the sin. Another important point. Okay. It's very obvious also, right? That if we keep on accumulating sins after sins, after sins, what will happen? We'll surely glide down to the lower species of life. Okay, that is the karma cycle. Okay, so this intelligent human form that we have, okay, you know, it has been given to us to take intelligent decisions. Okay, but what to do, what not to do, this kind of judgment only humans can make. Animals are not capable of making such choices. Basically, such kind of free will is not there with animals. Okay, such kind of intellect is not there with the animals. Okay, but if humans themselves start behaving like animals, just eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then this power to judge between what is right and what is wrong, that is completely lost. Okay. And then what happens? Such a person, as Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, prepares their next body in the lower species of life. Okay, because they are not worthy of this intelligence, that which comes along with this human form. Okay, and it takes them an entire cycle. Once you glide down to the lower species of life, it will take you one entire cycle to get the human form again. And then this cycle may comprise of several millions and millions of lifetimes. Okay, so just try to understand the importance of this human life that all of you have got. Okay, please use it wisely, use it intelligently. Okay, do not waste it. just in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Okay, even animals are doing that. We are just doing it in a more sophisticated way. That is the only difference. Okay, so in this way, having prasadam is very important aspect, very important aspect. Okay, we should not neglect that at all. Okay, and this material world, as I said, it is full of contaminations. Okay, and we as spiritualists are trying to remain free from the contamination. Okay, so but then again, no, another question may arise that okay, if this material world is full of contamination, then how can one remain free from contamination, right? It's like a person who is in the water and he's trying to, remain dry. How is that possible? So in this case, yes, it is possible. Okay, even if we remain in this material world which is full of contamination, we can still remain pure. Okay, and what is the solution? That has been given in the purport. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subjected to contamination. Very simple. Just eat Krishna Prasad and you will be free from all the material contamination. You don't do that, material contaminations will be there. It's as simple as that. And what is so difficult about it? Okay, let's try to analyze this. Okay, what we are trying to say here is that anything that is cooked in the kitchen with sanctity, with cleanliness, food which does not contain onion, garlic, or any other prohibited foodstuffs, okay, that can be offered to Sri Krishna. So you prepare the food, okay, you with the process which I mentioned just now, it should not contain any tamasic food like onion, garlic, or the prohibited food stuff, non-vegetarian stuffs, basically. Okay, and you place that food in front of the altar, okay, in front of a picture of Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, chant a few mantras which have been given in the description block. Okay, and after 5 minutes, you remove the food from the altar, and now it is prasadam. Have it, right? It's so simple. So what is so difficult about it? Okay. But this simple thing people won't follow, right? Why? Because our mind will trick us. Our mind will not allow us to do that. Mind will say, oh, who will do all this? Just wastage of time. You will start feeling lazy, basically, right? To do that. But those who are really intelligent and those who are really serious about, breaking this cycle of birth and death, they will surely take to this process. Okay, they will not ignore this at any cost. And the process of having only Krishna Prasadam, and by doing that, we get all the three benefits which we have just discussed earlier. Okay. So this was something about, offering food to Krishna. Okay. And the first part, Annad Bhavanti Bhutani. Okay. That all the lives, they subsist on grains, to offer, make an offering so that Krishna is satisfied. Subsequently, all the demigods will be satisfied and they will provide us all the necessities of the life. Okay. So coming to the second part, Yagyad Bhavati Parjanya. That the rains, they come from the yagya or the sacrifices. Okay. So now when I initially came to Krishna consciousness and I read this particular verse, I came to understand this verse. I had a very deep question in my mind. Okay, that how can yagyas get rain? Okay, that you are performing some sacrifice here and rain is coming from the sky, right? What is the correlation between the two? Okay, because as everyone else, I also used to think, okay, there's a proper water cycle that okay, sun's rays and heat of the sun, basically it falls on all the water bodies. The water evaporates, reaches a certain height, it cools down again, and then comes back as rain. Forms clouds and comes back as rain, and in this way that cycle goes on and on, right? But this subtle aspect I was not able to understand, that how can a sacrifice or a yajna can bring rain? Okay, and before that, Prabhupada is saying that everything that we eat, okay, the vegetarians, they eat different plant stuffs, okay, plant-based stuffs, and all the plant, all that comes from the plants, basically. That is the vegetarian food items, okay. So and where does and when it comes to the meat eaters, basically, or the non-vegetarians, okay, where is the meat coming from? Okay, meat is coming from the animals and plants, and the animals, basically, right? And when those animals, they eat the plants, the meat is formed, basically, right? So what Prabhupada is saying, that this field production is very, very important. And how is this field production coming into picture? We'll try to read here. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, Sun, Moon, etc. And they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices, therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. And that is the law of nature. Okay, Yagya, specifically the Sankirtan Yagya prescribed for this age, must be performed to save us at least from the scarcity of the food supply. Okay, if Sankirtan Yagya is performed in this particular age, then okay, we may not have everything in, you know, abundance or, you know, in an opulent way, but at least there will not be any scarcity of the foodstuffs. And you know, Sankirtan Yagya has been recommended is the topmost Yagya for this age of Kali Yuga. Okay, and what is the Sankirtan Yagya? It is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So what Prabhupada is mentioning here, he's saying that, okay, all the food stuff that we intake, okay, whether it's the vegetarian food for vegetarian, which is plant-based, or the non-vegetarian food, which is meat-based, basically, they all ultimately depend upon the food grains, the crops, basically, which we are growing, okay, or the fruits and vegetables which we are growing, correct? Because the vegetarians will directly consume them, the non-vegetarians will consume the meat of those animals who are in turn, you know, eating the plants, basically, correct? So this is how you know, this whole thing works. But we what we are seeing here is that the ultimate basis of all the life form, okay, is the field production, okay, the crops that we are growing. And the crops basically are in turn dependent upon the rainfall. The rainfalls are in turn dependent upon demigods like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and all those things, all those personalities, right? So what happens that once we perform the Sankirtan Yagya or the sacrifice which is recommended for this age of Kali Yuga, now this is very, very subtle science. Okay, please try to understand that. I'll also cite a few examples after this. So when we perform the Sankirtan Yagya in this age of Kali Yuga, what happens? Lord Sri Krishna is satisfied. Once Lord Sri Krishna is satisfied, all the demigods are satisfied, and they give us, you know, abundant amount of rainfall. Okay, so that there is no scarcity of foodstuffs here. Okay, so this is the cycle which I was talking about earlier, you know, when I at the start of the session. Okay. Now, by doing Sankirtan, what happens? Okay, the Supreme Personality, as I said, is satisfied, and you know, we get all the abundance, the rainfall in abundance. Okay. So when it comes to when I came to Krishna consciousness, okay, during my initial days, I used to think, okay, that how is it possible? Okay, how do Sankirtan and, you know, rains will help? As I said, you know, earlier, that I was not able to, you know, establish a connection between the two. But you know what? There are a lot of case studies, you know, not just one and two, several of them. Okay, when I came across those case studies, when I read them, okay, and these are all genuine ones. Actually, you can find, you know, a proper media report or the newspaper articles, you know, based on this, that some really miraculous case studies, you know, that has just happened. Okay, that just by performing the Sankirtan Yagya, there were rains. Okay, in the drought affected areas. Okay, the devotees are doing Sankirtan in a drought affected area, and in next few days there are heavy rains. Not just one or two, there are several. Okay, so those who are interested can go through the internet, they can try to find out, but there are few instances which I would like to, you know, mention here, okay, in this particular session also. One particular incident which got a lot of media coverage was in 2009. Actually, it happened in Punjab. Okay, and in this year 2009, there was a drought in different parts of India. Okay, in some parts, you know, as it was reported that it was the worst drought in over 25 years, last 25 years. It was the worst drought. Okay, and ISKCON devotees, there is a ISKCON center in Jalandhar, and you know, in Punjab, like they decided that on 28th of June 2009, okay, they will do a Sankirtan. Okay, they will congregate together, they will come together, and they will together chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so this chanting will go on, okay, for 12 hours. Okay, like from morning 7 a.m. to evening 7 p.m. Okay, and continuously that people will come and go, and this chanting will never stop. Basically, okay, Akhand Jap kind of thing. Okay, they organize this Sankirtan, and there were when this news spread, other common people they also joined in. Okay, and there were more than 1,000 to 2,000 people. Okay, at any given point of time, approximately more than 200 people were chanting. Okay, people were coming and going. It was a moving, crowd basically. And but any given point of time, 200 to 300 people were chanting every time. Okay, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay, and whole full media coverage was happening. Newspaper reporters were there, full coverage. And they were all seeing this. Okay, this is not a made-up story. People can just go and check it out on the internet. Okay, and on 29th June evening, there was a heavy rainfall in that area. Rainfall which was in the area which was drought affected. Meteorological department was completely baffled. They were surprised at how is this possible. Okay, there were no signs and symptoms of any rainfall for I don't know how many days, or years maybe, right? But just one day of chanting, and it brought heavy rainfall and torrential rains. Okay, it was there, and uh, that how can a drought affected area can receive such heavy rainfall so suddenly, right? Meteorological department was in a fix, right? And the reporters were also baffled, right? They started interviewing the devotees, and newspapers, they covered the incident in various articles. And one of the reporters made a very beautiful point that for the first time someone has come up with such a wonderful solution to the problem of drought. Okay, so this is just one incident, and there are so many examples all around the world, where Sankirtan people have congregated together, they have chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the rains were there. Okay. Even Prabhupada, when he was around, like he used to, whenever there was a drought in any state of India, he used to go and challenge the state government, okay, that allow us to do the Sankirtan, and we can bring the rainfall. And um, there was any there was one such incident in Hyderabad, basically, right? That entire region, Hyderabad and around surrounding areas. Okay, um, like it was again complete drought in that area. Okay, we people were actually starving, because of that drought. Okay, government tried all the measures to counter the situation, but they failed on all departments. Okay, in fact, when they were trying out different ways to counter this drought in that area, Prabhupada went there, to the government officials. He spoke, and then he said that allow us to do some sankirtan here, and we can bring the rainfall. Okay, and at that time, government officials didn't pay any heed to his request. He said that, Swamiji, we are already struggling. Why are you wasting our time? Like that, he said. Okay. But when all their efforts failed, then they were left with no other option. And then, when Prabhupada insisted again, they said, okay, please go ahead and do what you want, whatever you want to do. Okay. And Prabhupada, along with his disciples, he conducted a Pandal program for 10 days, a Sankirtan for 10 days. Okay, in that area. For last 1 year, like there had been no rain in that area, no rains in that area, and in that year also there was no symptom, okay, of rain or getting rain anytime soon. Okay, it was completely drought affected. People were really struggling. Okay, at that time. But when A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, okay, Srila Prabhupada, in his pure voice, he started the Sankirtan. Okay, in the next few days there were heavy rains in that area. Okay, and so much so that that the government, they ISKCON has actually got a lot of land in this way. Like they do some sankirtan, rains are there, then government is very happy. They offer them lands, okay, to build temples. Okay, and this is another example which I can think of. Some really good case studies are there, very miraculous case studies, and this is what I was talking about in the beginning of this session, that this is a subtle aspect that we all miss, basically. Okay, we can do all the scientific research to our heart's content as much as we want. Okay, but until and unless we start looking into this, subtle aspect which Bhagavad Gita talks about, it's very difficult to, perfect the human life. Okay, everything is right there. The necessities will be provided, provided we follow the instructions what is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so with this particular verse, we understand that Bhagavad Gita, what Bhagavad Gita speaks about, is practical. Okay, the only thing is that we need to have the purity to understand that practical stuff. Okay, right now we are fully contaminated. Okay, we are just trying to live our lives whimsically, that thinking ourselves to be free. Okay, that okay, my life, my rules, whatever I want I will do, but no one is actually giving a thought to the fact that we are completely bound by the laws of material nature. Okay, this illusion of freedom, I mean, freedom, this term is just an illusion. Okay, we are constantly under the laws of material nature, and we are being controlled by the three modes of material nature. Okay, so we have to understand these subtle things. Okay, in this way we see that Sri Krishna is telling Arjun that wherever you go, you will be needing rains, basically. Okay, whether you are here in this battlefield fighting as a Kshatriya, or you're a householder, or you choose to renounce everything and go to a forest, lead an ascetic life, but still you will be consuming roots, fruits, and vegetables, and you will be begging for alms from the different households. From where will that foodstuffs come from? Okay, it will come from the rainfalls, basically. So because of the rains you will be sustaining yourselves. Okay, and from where will the rains come from? Rain will come from yajna. Okay, and how will the yajna manifest? Yajna will manifest by the prescribed duties. And what is your prescribed duty? He said, he is saying to Arjuna, your prescribed duty is to fight, because you are a Kshatriya. Okay, so get up and fight. So this is what Lord Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna. Okay, so a very, very beautiful verse this was, with a very practical implementation. Okay, that how can we offer prasadam to Lord Sri Krishna? How can we please him? When he will be pleased, all the Devi Devtas will be pleased. So no need to perform 13 crore sacrifices or yajnas in your entire lifetime. Okay, just perform one small sacrifice, which is the Sankirtan Yajna, which has been prescribed for this particular age of Kali Yuga. Okay, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. All the necessities will be provided to you. Okay, so chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of this particular session. I hope you liked it. Please share your realizations in the comment section. If you have any questions, try to post them in the comment section. Okay, I'll try my best to go through them and answer them if required. Okay, if it's a generic question which can benefit a lot of people, a kind of question which is there in the minds of a lot of people, then I can make a separate video out of it. Okay, and those who are more interested can just get in touch with ISKCON Whitefield or ISKCON Kannamangala. Okay, and join my WhatsApp group. I'm there in the group. Personally, I'll take the question and answers. I'll be more than happy to do that. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of this session. Okay, for this week. Next week, I'll come up with another shloka, maybe one shloka, two shloka, whatever time permits. But we'll continue. Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.